Hello and welcome to the Woodrow Wilson Center. I'm John Milewski, host of Dialogue. We're on the set of Dialogue with Aaron Miller and Stephan Richter. We've just had a fascinating discussion on political leadership, particularly United States political leadership, and I have a few questions, more questions for our guests. I wonder if when history books are written and Barack Obama's presidency is a thing of the past, if someone might say, this was a great president because we drove to the edge of economic catastrophe and were pulled back. And all the details now, the birther movement and all of the craziness will just be white noise. And in other words, what I'm saying, is it possible that there can be great leaders in front of us right now and we don't even see them?
It's possible that there could be great leaders who have not yet become great leaders that we don't see. People like Lincoln, who came from nowhere.
But at what point did somebody say, okay, great leader? Was it after Lincoln was martyred?
Well, first of all, dying in office really helps. I mean, Lincoln went from man to mythology in the 10-day trip from bearing his coffin from Washington to Springfield, where it's estimated that 1 out of every 7 Americans actually saw that train go by or saw the coffin line and stayed. FDR dying in office, 4-term president, the only president my mother knew. People wept and were devastated. Even Warren Harding, who wasn't a great president, millions wept when Harding died in office. So that absolutely helps enshrine Kennedy, which is one of the reasons he's impressed himself on the public imagination, is because of the assassination. There's no question. Whether you can judge greatness literally in the moment is hard to know.
I never knew that the American presidency was so closely related in terms of greatness to what is Greek tragedy. Yeah, and so with regard to your question about the contemporary times, I think that's something we should shy away from as a standard, that only a president who dies in office and so on. There's a much bigger question. And the bigger question is, are we as a nation, as citizens, prepared to really work together as a team, or do we look for the president as some mythological figure who provides deliverance, solves all of our problems? I mean, we're almost into the next campaign season. It seems like for 2.5 years in this country, we're always working on electing the next president or a re-election campaign, and then maybe there's a year and a half of governing. That's not enough. The problems that we face today, from nuclear issues to jobs and so on, are so complex that I think it is very important to focus on the notion that with leadership goes followership. They go hand in hand. And I think the second part, in a civic, active, and engaged way, is what is in short supply. We project too much onto this man or woman that we elect as president taking care of all of our problems. That will never work unless we all get engaged and trust government, which is a very antithetical notion in these times and something that we need to reconsider.
In this age of deficits, are we experiencing a leadership deficit? Not just in the United States, around the world. Is leadership in short supply?
Around the world, I would say it's not in short supply for a very simple reason. These other countries, very few of them have any delusions of grandeur. Almost none of these other nations consider themselves exceptional. They understand that they don't have infinite resources. They need to make sure that every buck of public money they invest gets a certain return, because otherwise it's inefficient. That's a big challenge in this country, where with the Congress a lot of things happen and a lot of money is invested because we don't focus on balancing our budget, because we have a more superior situation in international financial markets that seems to help our greatness and our leadership capacity, but it's really worsening it because it doesn't allow us to put leadership into action when we need it, when things get tight.
Aaron, you've been looking at this historically in a book that you're working on. Is the leader meter at a low point? Or
I don't think there's any question that this is a deficit, and it's been a dry spell for quite some time. When you think about the fact that between 1930 and 1950, 6 human beings, for good or ill, defined the fate and the shape of much of the Western world. 6 individuals, for good and ill. And you think about I worked on Arab-Israeli negotiations for 25 years. We had breakthroughs when we had leaders, the Sadats, the Begins, the King Husseins, even the Arafats, the Rabins. Where are they now? We don't have leaders. We have politicians, and we have extractive kings and presidents in that part of the world for sure, which is only beginning to experience democratization.
If you'd like to hear more from our guests, and why wouldn't you after what you just heard, fascinating big thinkers, come to our website, www.wilsoncenter.org. Look at the upper right-hand part of the screen for the Dialogue tab. Click that, and you can see an entire 30-minute discussion. Thanks.